better not be buffering again. Last time, the YouTube live stream buffered. But then when I watched the replay after it processed, it was fine. And YouTube corrected itself and got rid of it. Is it buffering right now? Congratulations, Mark Bachman. You were here first, 1,000 Pine Points for you. Yeah, just making sure. Yeah, it's working. Okay. 1,000 Pine Points to Mark Bachman. And yes, Bacon Sarni Geddon, we are doing Pine Points. I'll give you 500. And who was third? Dirt Rock. I said you get 100 Pine Points. I set up an account but didn't buy the stocks in time before they recovered. No worries, Dirt Rock. No worries. Although I must say, I kind of enjoy it when people worry. Because I'm not a worrier, and I revel in the sufferings of others. I remember Christopher Hitchens said that once, and it was hilarious. But I kind of chuckle when people cry and moan about and complain about the stock market drop. And then, some people, I'm not saying this about you, Dirt Rock, but some people, they whine and complain and moan and groan about when the market goes up and they missed out on buying. But plenty of opportunity in the magical kingdom called this universe for you to get back in. So my kids think I'm a genius because if you watch my last live stream, I basically said now's the time to start scaling in. Not to go all in, but start buying. And I think I gave the number of 5,400 or something. Maybe I didn't. But anyhow, some people had questions about my strategy. It's very, very simple. Don't day trade. Don't try to time the market. Other than, someone made a good point in the comment section. Well, Doug, you are timing the market by using this strategy. In a sense, yes. But I'm always fully invested. And even when I have cash, it's still making 4% interest. I'm getting 3.7% interest on my cash just sitting there. That's pretty good, pretty good. But anyhow, my strategy is very simple. Here it is. You look at the highs, stock market highs. Here's the S&P 500, and it's 61.44. Then you take a calculator. Oh, and then you look at the bond rate. Now, which bond do you use? You can, for most people, I think, just use the CDs you can get at your local bank. The certified certificates of deposit. And right now it is about, I think at my bank it's at anywhere from 3.8 to 4.25%. The 1 year bond is at 4.26. So you take that times 3, that's roughly 12% on average. And you take 12% off the highs of 40, here it is, 61.44. So 61.44 times 0.88. Why 0.88? Because 100 subtract 12 is 88. So I would be a buyer at 54.06 and below. And I would, a buyer of stocks, 54.06. If it's below 54.06, and if let's say you have $1,000, you buy an index, the S&P 500, the NASDAQ. You can choose the index based on your risk profile. If you're younger, I would suggest riskier. And if it's over 54.06, then go back to buying a CD. Now, Doug, what's this 3 times the yield thing? It's a buffer zone for how long it takes for the stock market to reach new highs. And in corrections, it takes anywhere from 6 months to 2 years. And for longer major corrections or bear markets, it takes 3 to 6 years on average. So I'm using 3. It's sort of like the middle between a correction and a bear. Because in 3 years, if you buy the stock market when it's a 12% correction, where it's at right now after today's big gain, if it actually reaches new highs within 3 years, let's say it's exactly 3 years, you've made 4% return on your money plus dividends. You have probably made 5 or 6% interest or return on your investment, which is a little bit better than buying a CD. So that's why you would buy below 5406. And above 5406, I would suggest you just take your 4% CD and be happy. My index went from 10% gains over 4 years to 2% gains over 4 years with an 8% loss in the past week. But did you sell Thought Patrol? Remember, you haven't lost if you don't sell. It's just paper. It's just on paper. This is another thing that bothers me when people say, oh, it hurts retirees. It only hurts retirees if the stock market goes down, if they have to sell. Most retirees live off the dividends. So the real question is, will the dividends drop? And nobody knows the answer to that. Depends on the economy. But anyhow, I thought I would listen to a billionaire, and I purposely made the title of this live stream because they're smarter than the rest of us, just to trigger some people. Let's see. This is Andrew Schultz, the guy with the mustache. He's hilarious. I love him. And I'll let him introduce this billionaire.
Hello, everybody. The stock market is nosediving faster than Conor McGregor at a Colombian cookout. People are concerned, anxious, terrified. So, we've asked someone to come on the podcast to calm your nerves, put you at ease. No, not her. We've asked our richest friend, Chamath Pineapple Porta Potty Platypus.
I'm going to try to say his real name. Chamath Palihapitiya. Yeah, that's why he's called him a platypus.
Former owner of the Warriors, one of the earliest hires at Facebook, a legit billionaire, and the host of the biggest business podcast in the world, All In. If you would take some time away from surfing on the top of a train to explain why the stock market looks like Saxon Ratliff the morning after a sibling stroke-off. We're going to find out the real endgame for Trump's tariffs, what happens if they don't work, and why we might already be in a recession.
Okay, so that's the intro. Let me give you my take on the tariffs. I like them. But Doug, they're a tax on the American consumer. I can say okay to that. I am actually for consumption taxes over income taxes. So the plan, I think, is if income taxes drop, I rather pay taxes on what I consume, not what I earn. That promotes saving. And when you promote saving in a society, then you're not as dependent on the government. When you're not as dependent on the government, then the government can't manipulate you as easily because they can't say, well, I'll give you this, I'll give you that if you vote for me. You say, hey, I got like X amount in the bank. I'm fine. You can't pressure me. I mean, consumption taxes, I think, are the way to go. Canada has a consumption tax, a GST, but the problem is they also have high income taxes, so that's a double whammy. Okay, so here they talk about the stock market dropped about 15% from its recent highs to its recent lows, and then today it went up 10%, I think. No, 9%, because Trump said, we'll put a 90-day pause on all tariffs except for the 10% basement, and except for China. China, we're going to hose. We're going to cause them much pain and suffering. And I like that about Trump and the tariffs. And so the tariffs, giving my view of the tariffs, besides it being a consumption tax, if it's a low percentage, like 10%, it basically still allows the importers to import goods from other nations, and those goods still be competitive if it's only 10%. They're still in the market. And then you are collecting taxes from the importer first, and then if they pass that on, which they probably will to the consumer, then the consumer will pay it. And I'm fine with that. Totally fine with that. But with what Trump's doing now with the huge tariffs with China, that basically just says, we're not trading with you. Once your tariffs get to like over 100%, it's Trump saying, we're not going to trade with you. Bye-bye. And Trump's okay with that. Most of the goods coming out of China, not most, a lot of the goods coming out of China are useless things above poor quality that we don't need to buy anyhow. And there's exceptions, of course. What other thoughts do I have on the tariffs? Yeah, that's about it. The goal is make the tariffs high enough for China and other countries where we have a major deficit, trade deficit, and have Americans build and manufacture stuff themselves. The analogy I give is the United States is like the richest neighbor on the block. And over the past few decades, we've been hiring the poorer neighbors to paint our fences, to mow our lawns, to repair our roof. But the rich daddy of this in this neighborhood has said, "Hey, I got lots of kids. Why am I paying my neighbors to do all this stuff? I'm going to get my kids to do it. I'm going to get my kids to mow the lawn. I'm going to get my kids to fix the roof. I'm going to get my kids to paint the house." And that causes the neighbors to go, "Oh, but we need your business. You're mean. You're a bully because you're not taking our services and our goods." And say, "Hey, we can do it ourselves." Now, a lot of Americans think we can't do it ourselves, and even if we could, it would take 5 to 10 years. That could be true, but I don't think so.
Actually trying to do, right? Some people are like, they're tanking the market on purpose to get the debt yield down. Can you speak on this theory? I think Besant has been in a few interviews talking about it.
Yeah. So what are they talking about? So here's the thing. America owes people a lot of money. Okay. We owe, oh my gosh, I want to say
36 trillion,
maybe $35 trillion to other people. Now it's important to understand who are those other people and why did that happen?
Yeah.
So let's just say the 5 of us are running America. We all go off into our own separate rooms and, we come back with a plan. And Andrew, you're like, I want to spend $1 billion on defense. And then, Mark says, I want to spend $1 billion on healthcare. And I say, I want to spend, $2 billion on Social Security or whatever. And we tally it all up, right? And we're like, okay, to run America is going to cost $10 billion. How are we going to get that money? And
I was raised in the Mennonite Church, and the way the Mennonite Church did it, okay, this is our expenses. How are we going to get this money? You take the number of members. Here's our expenses divided by the number of members. That's fair. Now, today, especially from the left's mind, what's fair is the rich pay more and the poor pay nothing.
It's like 1913.
It's a GoFundMe.
The answer is we're going to go to all the individuals in the United States to pay for it. By the way, just so you guys know, before 1913, okay, we had 120 odd years where all of that money, that $10 billion, whatever that number was at the time, it was all generated via tariffs. Okay, it was outside folks paying in to have the right to be in the United States. Then we would take that money and we would pay for healthcare, we would pay for Social Security, we would pay for military, we did all that stuff.
Tax.
Okay, so anyways, fine. So here we are. But you add up all the amount of taxes we raise, and it only is $8 billion. So what do? You go and you borrow from somebody who's willing to lend you $2 billion, right?
So just to clarify, like that borrowing doesn't necessarily mean a bank. People can buy bonds. They can buy these treasury bonds. And isn't that a similar thing?
So what happens is, okay, we're like, okay, shit, we need to come up with $2 billion. Where do we get it? So what happens is the United States Treasury is allowed by law to then go into the market. Okay, I'll explain what that means in a second. And sell an IOU. Mm-hmm. Hey, this IOU is backed by the United States government, full faith and fidelity of all of the assets that we own. Give me $2 billion. I'm going to take it. I'm going to fund this deficit, and I'm going to spend my $10 billion this year. We've been doing that basically forever. Add it all up now, we're at 30 some odd trillion dollars, okay? Now, what is the problem with that?
Well, what is the problem with that? You ask someone on the left, and they can't answer that question. Some people say, well, there's no problem with that. You talk to the expert economists, they'll say there's nothing wrong with high debt. Oh, really? Well, Chamath here will tell you what's wrong with that.
Well, that is a colossal interest rate payment. Imagine that you take out now a credit card every year, max it out. At some point, you're going to have an enormous interest payment, right? And that is dictated by the interest rate that is tied to the credit card that you have. It's the exact same thing for the United States government. We have 30 some odd trillion of debt, and we have a really high APR.
Yeah, the APR is what right now?
Well, I think the blended is, I want to say like 5-6%, let's say. So, you're talking trillions of dollars in interest, okay? Which is a problem. So on top of that, these credit cards, assuming you have this credit card, it expires and you got to go and apply for a new one. That's what so every year. So right now in this year.
Okay, I just want to show something here. This is the monthly Treasury report. Our fiscal year end is the end of September. September 30th of every year is the United States' fiscal year end. This is the budget. This is outlays, receipts, interest. That's 1 month. Let's do cumulative. So what is that, 8 months? Net interest, $396 billion. National defense, $399 billion. Remember, this is not a full year, but we're paying right now as much in interest as we are in national defense. That has to change.
America has $6 trillion of credit that is expiring that we don't have the money to pay for. So what do we need to do? We need to reborrow that money.
So issue more bonds.
So we have to sell bonds. So who are the buyers? The buyers are all these people around the world, central banks, pension plans.
Also us.
Yeah.
So yes, but asterisks. The thing that America, again, I go back to, like, we are the star of the show, okay? Everybody is levered to the United States. Everybody. What does that mean? If you go to Japan, Japan is way deeper in debt than we are. They have 2 times as much debt as we do relative to our GDP, relative to the amount of revenue that we make. And you would say, well, how is that possible? When Japan finances their debt,
because they're racist.
The overwhelming majority of the people that are supporting Japan are the Japanese. Japanese companies, Japanese pension funds, Japanese individuals, your mom, your dad, buying the Japanese bonds. In America, it's not that. It's about 1/3 are Americans, but 2/3 are everywhere.
No,
okay,
that's
it's
not
like
true.
The Saudi Aramco, it's Shell, it's Novartis, it's the
China.
Central Bank of Lesotho, it's China. China owns almost $1 trillion of our debt.
Hang on, I think he misspoke there. He said it was 2/3 other people, 1/3 Americans that own the debt. I think it's the opposite. I think it's 2/3 Americans. What percentage of the U.S. national debt is held by Americans? I think it's 64%. I don't know. Answer is 70 to 75%, Grok says. Yeah.
So the whole point is...
But that means 25 to 30% is held outside the country, which is a bad thing. That's money flowing out of the country in interest payments.
Is if you can bring the cost of borrowing down, we save ourselves a lot of money. We make the headache much smaller. Now, here's a huge problem that happened at the end of Biden.
Real quick, before you say that. So essentially, if we can lower the
APR,
if we can lower the interest payment, then at the end of every year, the money that we owe is much less, and then we can start chipping away at the principal instead of just paying the interest. Another important thing to understand is the more people buy treasuries, the lower the interest payment is on those treasuries. The less people that are buying treasuries, the higher it goes, right?
Exactly. This is like this.
So
exactly.
If you can, some people say if you can scare people in the equities market, meaning just the stocks, right? If you can scare them about stocks, if you can create uncertainty in the stock market,
then they go buy treasuries.
People go, I just need some security. I need something back with the full, what is it?
Yeah, when a lot of people flood the market to buy bonds, to buy treasuries, you have more buyers than sellers. The price goes up, and there's an inverse relationship with the price of bonds and the yield on those bonds. I won't get into that, why that is right now. So then the interest rates go down. So some people have theorized that the whole stock market crash that we've experienced the last week or two has been orchestrated and on purpose to lower the interest rate in order to get a more favorable rate for the debt that needs to be refinanced this year.
Of the U.S. government, I need treasuries. They start dumping all that money into treasuries, you can reduce that yield, which is that interest payment. Now, before you move on, I just want to ask one question. We initially, when this was mentioned, I guess a couple of days ago by Trump, you saw that yield go down almost like a point, right? Or at least it clipped.
It was enormous. We went from like 450. Like I was worried that it could go to 5. Instead, when Trump said, guys, I'm doing this, I'm serious, it went from 450 to like 420. And then it went to 4. And then it went to like 390 something. And now it's right around back at 4.
Now, when it started to go back up again, some people thought that a big holder of U.S. Treasuries, i.e. like a China or one of the other countries or companies they were talking about, purposely sold treasuries
to flood the treasury market,
and then increase that
the
yield,
APR.
That interest payment again. Remember, the more that they sell, the more we got to pay out. So it's a form of like eco-terrorism.
Here's
Is that bullshit or true?
I think it's bullshit, and I'll tell you why. There is no amount of money that you could spend that a country has in U.S. Treasuries to sustain that kind of price manipulation in a market that big.
Got it. So it might be initial, but eventually it would start to...
Could you puke it out? Like, meaning the thing is, like...
Got it.
These markets are extremely efficient. Like, in betting, like sports betting, I used to be a big sports bettor. Like, these guys are all sharps, okay?
Yeah.
They know the line.
Yeah.
They know the edge. You're not getting an advantage over one day, over 5 hours. Like that's
got it. So it would be China literally unloading the $1 trillion in bonds that they have.
They wouldn't do that,
and they wouldn't do it. Of course, there's probably some sort of like competitive advantage they have owning that type of debt.
The thing with Biden, just so you guys know, is this is a misnomer that Trump is for the wealthy. I don't think that that's true. Trump is much more about MAGA, which is like working class, middle class. He's not about the Mag 7. That's what Besson said too. The stock market is a Mag 7, Magnificent 7 problem, not a MAGA problem. What does he mean by that? Yeah. What he means is like 50% of Americans have zero equity exposure. Zero.
This is what we talked about when I did your pod, and this was huge. Yeah.
And so,
this is a very important point. If you look at the exit polls in the last election in 2024, people making between, I don't know exactly the divisions, but let's say $30,000, $40,000 to $100,000 per year, Trump won that vote. Trump is actually one of the, one of the first Republican presidents, other than Ronald Reagan, to basically be the president for the working class. And he has gotten a lot of support from unions, from blue-collar men especially. It's kind of fun to see. And right now, the shift in the electorate, now the Democrats are the party of the bimodal distribution. The two humps are far apart. The very, very poor, the people in poverty, the queer community who feel like they need protection, the people who need food stamps or whatever, welfare recipients, they vote Democrat. And then the very, very wealthy, the professors, the elite, the people who feel tremendous guilt that they're successful on the backs of slavery and the oppressed. And so they are, of course, for the Democrat Party, so they can raise taxes to alleviate their guilt.
44% of it own like 12%. So for the most part, the American individual investor is not necessarily super exposed to equities. And so the thing that Biden did, though, is he had an incredibly aggressive program of keeping the stock market afloat. How do you do that? Okay, so like if you guys and I wanted to manipulate the stock market at the president of the United States, what could we do?
Keep money cheap.
Lower interest rates.
Money cheap. You would,
which means, just for everybody, like making sure that the cost of taking out money, like interest rates are low.
Yeah,
you could.
Interest rates were high during Biden.
They were high, but what Janet Yellen did was, as the interest rates came due in that period, they massively just refinanced the debt. And this is getting a little technical, but in very short periods of time. So when you go and refinance yourself, right? Like if you go and refinance your home, you could do a 10-year mortgage, you could do a 30-year mortgage. She did a 30-day to 1-year mortgage. Okay. Now, why would you do that? If it was cheaper, right? and you basically had more flexibility to just keep money in the system, if you had, all these $2 billion loans going out to all of your friends who would just like spend in all kinds of crazy ways, everything looks like it's working. GDP looks like it's working. The stock market goes up because the earnings of these companies looks like it's working. And what's incredible is that problem is now coming home to roost now. So Besant has to refinance $6 trillion in the next 9 months.
Oof.
Okay, so this is like not a small number, right? So all this debt that basically Yellen and Biden just kind of put on the front end, it's called the front end of the curve. Like
so before Trump was elected, I predicted that there'd be an oncoming recession because of this problem, because of our debt problem. And so if Harris would have won the past election, and if the Democrats were in control, my guess is what would have happened, how would they have solved this deficit problem? They probably would have raised taxes, which would have been a negative push downwards to the economy. But Doug, they would only tax the super wealthy. You cannot tax the super wealthy enough to pay for our debt and the interest payment on our debt and our huge budget deficits. There's just not enough wealth out there. You could confiscate everybody's wealth. And I think we did this the other day, $6 or $7 trillion. We could just take every billionaire's wealth, every penny they have, because they're evil people, right? 6 or 7 trillion. Our debt's 37 trillion. What doesn't make a dent?
Year maturities or whatever, they got to figure out how to push it out 10 years, 12 years, as far as possible. And so that's going to be a very complicated task. And so they benefit from the lower interest rate. And to your point, what tariffs did was it shocked the stock market. And when that happened, it told the bond market, hey, man, there's a lot of volatility and uncertainty here. It's like, let's go to the sidelines for a little bit and just chill and observe what happens. When that happens, the interest rates go down. And that allows us, Americans, all of us collectively, we will save hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars because of what has happened in the last 5 days.
So, yeah, now maybe this will correct itself quickly, but if you can give me a steel man, I largely agree anecdotally with what you're saying. Again, we travel the country, I see middle America and I see why they're angry. I see like a lot of decay, and you can tell me the stock market is high, but I'm like, I don't think ordinary Americans feel this. So give me the steelman argument for why a stock market dip that doesn't scare me for regular Americans would be a big problem and whatever.
Ooh, that's a good challenge. Steelman, why, even though most Americans are not heavily invested in the stock market, why that's still bad that the stock market drops. That's a tough one. Like, I'm assuming he means other than just the emotional reason. I would say the steelman argument would be that it would hurt retirees the most, especially the ones that need to sell in order to eat. Other than that, I can't even think of why the stock market drop is that huge of a deal. Other than I look at my 401k and I feel sad. That's just all emotion. This is the advantage of being dead inside, more dead inside. You can push through those emotions.
Problem for people that are about to retire. It's a big problem for people that have a large percentage of their net worth there. Mm-hmm. It's also a big problem for the companies themselves, because if shareholders have a bunch of uncertainty, they may not give them more money. These companies may not be able to invest as aggressively in the future.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he brought up a good point here. If you have borrowed money based on your portfolio and that portfolio drops, the bank might call the loan, or it might say you need to infuse more cash, so the debt to equity, the debt to collateral is closer to 65, 75%, and now it's gone up. Your debt compared to your collateral is too high. So yeah, that's another good reason.
It's not like it's not without pain. I want to be clear. Like, you're right. Like, there's no free lunch anymore. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, this is like big boy pants time. So we all put on our fucking big boy pants. And the reality is there is going to be these trade-offs. The question is, how can you judge the trade-offs, and make a very difficult set of decisions for the greater good. And I think that's honestly where we're at. So yeah, there will be pain for some of these companies. Is it right? I'm not going to call that ball and strike. It's unfortunate. And the reason we're here is not necessarily anybody's fault that's in this room. But you got to fix it. Sorry, go ahead.
If the majority of Americans are living check to check, isn't this going to hurt them way more than it hurts everyone else?
Right. It's inflationary, is what you'd say, right?
So so this is also another misnomer. Okay.
Yeah, I was just, when he said the majority of Americans are living check to check, I know it's a significant percentage, but I don't think it's the majority.
And I think this is important. What is inflation? Okay. Inflation means, if you said inflation is, I'll pick a number, 3%. What does that mean? That means that if you and I bought those Jordans and they were $100, next year, let's just use that for the purposes of this math, are 103, right? They go up by 3%.
I just grokked it. It looks like 61% of U.S. adults were living paycheck to paycheck, so maybe it is most, with lower income households earning under $50,000 being most affected, but even 36% of earning $100,000 report similar struggles. Spend less. 2024. If you're making $100,000 a year and you're living paycheck to paycheck, you either have 5 kids or you got too many iPhones. Another 2024 report from Bankrate indicated that 59% of Americans couldn't cover a $1,000 emergency expense from savings, implying reliance on immediate income or debt. The Federal Reserve's 2023 Economic Wellbeing Report noted that 35% of adults felt financially strained or could only meet basic expenses, with a 17% reporting they couldn't pay. See, the Federal Reserve's report seems like it's different than these other reports. The Federal Reserve's 2023 Economic Report makes it sound like 35% live paycheck to paycheck. At most. So who knows?
Actually, let's use 10% because I'm bad at 3% math here. So it's $100, it goes to 110, okay? The next year it goes up by another 10% if inflation stays where it is, right? Now you add an $11, right? So now the shoes are 121. So in 2 years, the price has gone from 100 to 121 for those Jordans, right? That's inflation. The next year it'll go up by another 10%. The next year it'll go up by 10%. That's what inflation is. This is a price shock. And that's different. What do I mean? So if that Jordan has a 10% tariff on it, it goes from 100 to 110 one time. And if inflation is otherwise zero or close to zero, it doesn't go up the next year by another $10 and then another $10 and another $10. That's not how tariffs work. It is how inflation works.
That's why he's a billionaire.
So I think it's important to just make sure, like, are tariffs inflationary? They can be, but not necessarily.
But if we import most of our products and we're applying tariffs to almost all the products we import, then that's going to be a huge price increase for pretty much all the goods that we buy.
But it's not correlated to the cost of the actual goods sold. Like, the reason inflation happens is, the price of oil goes up, so it's more expensive to run the factory. So then the goods become, nothing changed to make your shoe. Nothing. It's just that when it landed in the port of LA, there used to be a piece of paper that you would stamp that said 0%. Now the thing is stamped and it says 10%. The actual cost of making this thing has not gone up.
Yeah, but Nike's going to apply that
cost on.
Pass the cost
he's not
to the
saying
consumer.
he's not saying that the cost doesn't get passed on. Yeah. So let's say
it's a one-time pass through.
So let's say in the first year,
it's hurt tremendously.
Yeah. Nobody's saying it won't hurt, but why it's different than inflation. So in the first year,
Don't buy Nikes then.
it would feel identical to inflation. In the second year, it would stay the same. Whereas in the second year with inflation, it would continue at that rate.
Yeah, and I guess what I'm saying is I'm just concerned about the people who are barely getting by, and now food's going to be more expensive.
No, 1,000%. But here's what they said, which is, I think you want to see this happen. What they said is there's going to be these price shocks. You're right. So year one is difficult, okay? But it could raise upwards of $750 billion a year, okay?
You're saying tariffs.
Tariffs.
Okay, this is the important point. Important part, because I think Trump's dream, like if he could have a dream America, which he's trying to do, it would be to go back to the 1800s, to regress. I say this language to trigger the progressives. Let's regress to the 1800s where we tariff a little to keep the foreigners competitive. They're still in the game, but now they have to pay a surcharge. It's a referral fee. We're referring the American public to you. The United States government's referring the American public to you, and we're going to charge a referral fee of 10%. And you can still make money, but we're going to collect that 10%, and we're going to try to collect enough of it that we can eliminate federal income tax or drastically lower it. Can you imagine if that happens? Can you imagine if Trump announced in year 3.5 of his presidency, 5 months before the election? Oh, this would be, this would cause the left to go absolutely insane. If Trump announced no more federal income tax for married couples making less than $200,000 a year, gone. In a way, the left would like that, I guess, because now we're just basically taxing the rich, in quotes. What would the Democrats do? How could they ever compete with that? If Trump were to say, hey, that 10% tariffs I put on in early 2025, that blanket 10%? And then people came to the negotiating table and we got better trade deals and all that sort of thing. And actually our manufacturing, it barely went up, but it did go up a little bit. But we collected all this revenue. And then remember Doge back in 2025? Remember how we cut the waste and the spending? I mean, the Democrats would be sunk if federal taxes went away for people making, let's say, under $200,000 a year. I don't think they could say anything against it. It's like, no, we need to tax people, the middle class.
What they said that they would do is they would then turn around and cut the federal
income tax.
Yeah. For anybody making $150,000 or less to zero.
So what they're doing is using the tariffs to offset the price shock.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't.
But and this is the math, and that hasn't been 100% established yet. But instead of like putting the burden on the American consumer, we put the burden on the foreign country to pay that delta.
And then effectively subsidize.
Yeah, Roger in the live stream chat says, honestly, I was disappointed that Trump announced the 90-day pause and make them sweat a little bit more. Yeah, you sound like, Roger, you're a little bit like me. You're okay with the sufferings of others a little bit. I hear that, but this is the beauty of what Trump's doing. I'm going to put my Trump apologist hat on here. I'm going to defend him. The day he came out in front of the White House with that board of list of tariffs, and even like Australia, someone else mentioned in the live stream chat that Australia we have a surplus with Australia, so why would he even tariff them? Good question. But with that board and that list of high tariffs that were not reciprocal, if you take it tariff at face value, the meaning of the word, why would he do that? Well, Doug, Trump is stupid. Don't you? This is an easy answer, Doug. Trump is stupid. He doesn't know what he's doing. Oh, really? Well, I'm trying to think of a good example of what Trump did there. Let's say you are hungry for a hamburger, and I sell hamburgers. And you come, and you're really hungry for a hamburger. I say, and you ask me, how much is your hamburger, Doug? $30. Whoa, hang on. That's a very expensive hamburger. I don't know if I can afford that. Well, it's a very good hamburger, $30. No, well, that's just too much money, Doug. I don't think I can. That's crazy. And I say, okay, I'll tell you what. Give me $22.50. You can have it, which is still way more than the average hamburger. But now your expectations was 30 is just terrible, terrible, terrible. 22 and a half, hey, that sounds a lot better. It's setting expectations. It's called a psychological anchoring. And that's part of the negotiating ploy, I think, that Trump used. I would not be surprised if Trump in his head had, let's put China off to the side right now, But in his head, he had for every country 10%. And he just said 25% for Europe, 30% for this country, this, whatever. And then when they hear that he's now dropped it, a 90-day pause back to 10%, people go, whew. They feel a sense of relief and almost joy, but yet it's gone from 0 to 10% for most countries. No off position on the genius switch.
As the consumer through an income tax.
Now, to be fair, the $750 billion, I assume, that's assuming everybody pays the tariff fully.
Okay, so this is an important point. I would say right now it's a moving target, meaning the sharps before Liberation Day, the smart money line was at like 250 billion. Okay. That's Wall Street. I mean, we'll put smart in quotes, but that was their number. And part of why the stock market went berserk was they just got it totally wrong. And the back of the envelope math that I did and that a couple of my friends did, and I would say they're much smarter than I am, they got to 750. I got to 750 as well. Howard Lutnick, who's a commerce secretary, said like anywhere approaching 750, we have a line of sight to be able to cut income taxes to zero for anybody making 150 or less.
Oof.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I mean,
so we're in the magic zone here, guys.
So here's
you know what I mean?
So there's a perfect example. Like, there's all this conversation about the midterms right now. Trump tanks the stock market. People get screwed over by what some people calling inflation, but like the price shock. But if you announce at the end of the year, there's a $750 billion surplus because of taxes, and we're eradicating income tax for people making under $150,000, midterms are going red.
I mean, bro, forget midterms. They'll want Trump for the third term. I mean, you know what I mean?
Would there be a surplus?
Oh, they'll want Trump. It's funny he should say that. Someone said I need to show a clip of Bernie Sanders. He was asked about term limits for senators. And he said, we have term limits. You just don't vote me in. If you don't want me, you don't vote for me. And I'm very curious to see if, I don't think this will happen, but if Trump runs for a third term, he could just say, I'm with Bernie. Like, let me run for a third term. If you're really against me being a third term, don't vote for me. And these guys are saying, if Trump pulls this off and he eliminates income taxes, what percentage of the American public will say third term? I don't know the answer to that. And I personally don't want Trump to run a third time. I think there's other Republicans who can follow Trump's model and do better because they're younger. Yeah, Trump's getting way too old.
If we're in so much debt, isn't it just chipping away at the debt? It won't be a
So I guess it's you use the debt.
Yeah, year to date.
It's up to you how you use that $750 billion. And I assume in the first year to deal with the price shock, I don't want to speak for each month, but it would be like, okay, this year, that goes back to y'all. We'll figure that out. Deal with the price shock. Now that everything is normalized and inflation is down, we'll start using that $750 billion toward the debt. I assume.
But if you get rid of federal taxes, then you have to keep applying that money to offset.
Yes, you would, 100%. Yeah. But would it not sway voters?
Oh yeah, but that's not.
Let's say you halved it. Let's say you halved income tax. Right now we're talking about none. But like, let's say you halved it. Hey, your income tax is going to be 50%. What if your tax guy came to you and was like, "Yo, I got a way to get your income tax down to like 50% of what you normally would pay"?
What he already does now.
Yeah, and the black gentleman made a good point. You still need to generate revenue, tax revenue. So if you give away all the tariff money in form of a tax cut, then you're still left with a deficit problem and meeting your obligation problem. But if you cut people's income tax, the middle class, their income tax in half, or get rid of it completely, can you imagine how much more disposable income they have to spend? And when you have more income to spend, a lot of people tend to spend it. And what does that do to the economy? Goes up.
So
is this a long-term sustainable solution?
Will this actually chip away at the debt long-term is what Al's asking.
Yeah. How can tariffs chip away at the debt?
I think, Al, the longer term, we need growth in America. How do you really chip away at this problem? You need to make more money. So I think saving money is good, but you need to make more money. How do you make more money in America? We need to have more people working and getting paid more money. And the way to do that is we need the kinds of industries that create enough value where you're willing to pay these folks more money. So like if you could go to a trade school and work for a utility and make, 80, 90, 100, whatever, 110K a year. And again, this goes back to the domestic policy that they have to get right, and be able to buy a house and send your kid to a school where they're not going to get, fucked up in the head. They can get like a good, decent education. I think like that's how you generate way more value in the United States so that you can really start to chip away at it.
Everybody.
Yeah, I agree with almost everything Chamath said there. Can you imagine the pain and suffering that would be involved if trade schools were promoted and kids started saying, I'm not going to university. I'm actually going to learn how to do stuff and make money instead of getting a useless degree. Not all degrees are useless, but a lot of times get a useless degree and get indoctrinated into some left-wing garbage. I mean, maybe this is the plan. Maybe this is Trump's plan. Collect tariffs, which is a consumption tax. I'll give it to you, but use that consumption tax to get rid of income tax, and that would promote it would incentivize saving versus spending. Because guys like me, like a consumption tax wouldn't really bother me. I mean, I don't spend my money that much. Maybe on good meals, that's about it. I want to play a clip of how a lot of the stuff that Trump says is very similar to Bernie Sanders. And this will, if you really want to bother people on the left, show the similarities between Bernie Sanders and Trump, and they'll go insane. This is a clip I made recently.
A net increase. Virtually all economists agree that NAFTA will produce a net increase of U.S. jobs over the next decade. End of quote. What happened was exactly the opposite of what they said. All of the verbiage that we heard about NAFTA being so good for American workers turned out to be dead wrong. What about China? We were told, oh my God, the Chinese market was going to be open, billions of people. What an opportunity to create good paying jobs in America. Were they wrong? In 2001, the trade deficit with China was 83 billion. Today, it is 342 billion. It is my view that we have got to rebuild manufacturing in America. It is my view that we have got to create millions of decent paying jobs in America. It is my view that we need to fundamentally rewrite our trade agreements. Virtually.
Yeah, it sounds like Trump, right? Oh, I would love it if some woke left-wing progressives who support Bernie Sanders or mostly support him, I would love to press them on this. How, when it comes to the middle class, I think, and bringing jobs back to America or starting jobs in America that were formerly using slave labor in other countries to do, increasing the wages organically instead of, well, this is where Trump would disagree with Bernie probably with minimum wage. Instead of doing it through minimum wage, do it organically, that businesses need to raise the price of wages in order to get Americans to do the job. And so now Americans can actually have a one-income family where usually the wife stays at home, raises the kids, and they can now afford better schools. Like, it would build upon itself. Actually, you know what? I'll open the room for if someone wants to call in, ask me questions, or express how much hate they have for me. That's fine. So the way you do it is you just click this link that I'll provide for you. I also have some other clips of like people, Democrats, people who lean left, they won't listen to people like me. They just want to fight with people like me. But they'll listen to their own. And it's a good strategy. It happens on both sides. Like some people have sent me videos of Republican-leaning, right-leaning people saying things about tariffs. Tariffs are bad, bad, bad. See, Doug, here's a Republican. A good example is Ben Shapiro. Just he made a video a couple of days ago kind of chastising Trump with his tariff plan. But the problem is, with those types of videos, with Trump, you don't necessarily always listen to what he says. You watch what he does. Today was a great example. Although I can't confirm that he actually did do a 90-day pause, but I'm assuming that, that's true. Like Trump can basically control the stock market right now. That is power. Trump can make the stock market go up 10%, down 10%, just by saying a few words. So if you're trying to time the market right now, good luck. But here's some, let's see if I can find it here. Democrats saying some things. This is from the Modernity News. I think he has a YouTube channel as well. Oh, I got a lot of Chuck Schumer here. Oh, somebody called in already. Oh, it's you again.
You remember me?
Yeah, I remember you. Do you have a question for me?
I think the next time Trump talks about tariffs or whatever, I don't think the stock market will move that much. I think people know he's already kind of shown his hand at it. I think it's.
You could be right. Like most of the shock and awe is gone.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it's going to go up. It could just slowly drift down. I hope it does. I hope the stock market continues to go down because I really want my kids to get in.
Did they not? Did they get a little bit?
Oh yeah, they got in a little bit, but we scale in, cost average in. But right now the stock market has recovered so much that if you missed the early part, if you came late, I told you 5406, the low 5400s on the S&P 500 we're right at that level where above you're better off to go in bonds, below go in stocks, in my opinion.
Okay. Yeah, I got in a little bit, but yeah, I didn't. I was thinking of going in this morning, and then yeah, I was like, God damn it, fucking. Anyways,
Some individual stocks went up over 20% today.
I think Tesla did. Yeah, Apple did.
Tesla did.
I think so. Apple, which is weird because Apple 9 out of 10 iPhones are made in China. So.
Yeah, that's right. And China was the exception to the rule today. But right now Trump has priced China out of the market. So the tariff doesn't even matter at this point. It's just basically Trump said no trade with China.
Right. He's probably banned trade with China. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which has that's I think that's bad. I don't think even 10% tariffs is enough to eliminate federal income tax. Right. Obviously, it's not enough. But like what? I've been hearing like you need 100%, 60 to 100% tariffs to actually eliminate federal income tax.
Well, according to Chamath, he said at 10% you could get rid of income tax for people who make under $150,000 a year.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know the math on that.
Because you got to remember that the majority of income tax paid are from the very wealthy. I think the people in the top 10 percentile pay something like 63% of all federal income tax. And the top 10 percentile, I think, is above $150,000 per year.
Okay. Fair. The 10%, though, our consumption would go down a lot, I think.
Why?
Even if it's a one-time, it's because it's a jump in price of goods, so our consumption of those goods would go down.
Well, the thing is, at 10% is like it's a step up, one-time step up of all foreign goods. So if we're talking about foreign goods that that there's substitutes for, still competition for, I don't think it's really going to affect. And again, even if it is a consumption tax passed on to the American consumer, and I'd rather have that than an income tax.
Interesting.
Wouldn't you?
You would. I don't know, because I think you've heard this. Yeah, it's a consumption tax. I think the poorest people pay that, whereas an income tax, it's progressive, so the highest people pay that. I don't know. It sounds better.
Think about it. Like, let's say you're making $50,000 a year. You got a kid or two. You're really struggling to make ends meet. If you get rid of, you probably don't even pay much income tax at all at that point. So maybe think of a person making $100,000 a year. They probably pay $10,000 a year in income tax. That's assuming they got all the deductions working for them. Mm-hmm. And let's say you really want to save money and build wealth. Mm-hmm. How do you do that when if you have a consumption tax, you stay at home every day of your life? I mean, at least for a long time. You don't go to the movies. You eat. You buy rotisserie chicken from Costco, and that will last you 1 week. You eat spaghetti. Like, if you really want to build wealth and save money, you can do it now, because every penny you make, you get to keep. And if you're staying at home playing cards instead of going to fancy restaurants or whatever, you can save money fast.
You can, but I mean, I don't think the economy's got to keep moving, right? If everybody did that, I just don't know.
That's a good point. What kind of hit would that take on the economy?
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then, like, I don't know, trying to pretend like we care about manufacturing jobs or bringing those back is just kind of stupid. I don't think anybody.
You elitist.
I am. I'm a coastal elite. I will admit that. But I don't think we don't have.
Which coast are you on?
East Coast.
East Coast.
Yeah.
New Jersey? No, you're not. You don't have an accent.
I guess Massachusetts. I'll say it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Nobody cares about you. I mean, you and your white collar job. You changed into this T-shirt just so you look like you belong and part of the average person.
Right. Yeah. But there is nobody lining up. There's nobody in the deep red states that list are begging for these factory shift jobs. Nobody wants to go work in the coal.
How old are you?
30 now, actually. Jeez.
30.
Yeah.
Okay, so would you work at a manufacturing plant if they paid you $100,000 a year, plus all benefits, health, dental?
What do I have?
Retirement plan. You and your wife are taken care of.
Okay, I mean, for $100,000 a year, would I work a factory?
A factory job, yeah, making Nikes.
Making Nikes.
Yeah.
Do I have other options? Like,
Sure, you have other options.
Then no, because I'm a software engineer and I work from home most of the time, and I can just tell my kids, look, you can go to community college, go into coding,
okay,
and you can make a ton of money with no debt. Like, your ROI on that is insane.
Right. Okay, so your kid, 18 years old.
Right.
You have a son?
No kids. Single.
Oh, no kids. Okay, imagine you have a kid, 18 years old.
Yep.
Comes out of high school, can get paid starting wage $75,000 a year, no college degree, and no college debt, $75,000 a year, full benefits, making Nikes. That's a good gig.
Sure, but what does growth on that? I don't want to make him $75,000 for the next 4 years, and it's a labor.
Sure. Oh, wait. I would take that deal if I was 18 years old.
No.
You know what I would do?
What?
I would stay at home, live with my parents for 4 years. Now I'm 22 years old. I would save basically 99% of every dollar I made. Now you got $300,000, let's say $250,000 saved, and you do a proper allocation of bonds and stocks, you can do whatever you want for the rest of your life, and by the time you're 65, you'll have millions of dollars in the bank.
Sure. And maybe a broken back, arthritis, long black
Oh,
lung.
come on.
It's a fact. Don't act like these.
Do your hands bleed when you even look at a shovel?
No, they don't.
Come on, be a man. They're
No,
young, 18 years old. They don't have back problems yet.
Sure, but they will. I'm not telling like this. No, you absolutely do not take that job at the factory. What on earth?
So you want Chinese kids to have the back problems?
Yes. No. Chinese, sure. I mean, we can. Hey, they have cheap labor. Okay, we can take advantage of that. That's the free trade, free market. That's okay. People have cheaper labor than us, and that's okay. We do the high value stuff. We do the high value, the high margin, high value add stuff. The United States makes that software, the services, the high margin stuff that we export.
But not everybody's as smart as you. What about? You see what I did there? See, I kind of stroked your ego a little bit. You're a smart guy. There's some really dumb people in the United States. They're good people. They're great people. A lot of them are just fine, upstanding people. They would never hurt a fly, but they're not the brightest. Sometimes making Nike shoes is the best for them. That's all they can do. And if they can make a good living wage, see, I'm sounding like Bernie, right? If you can make a good living wage, have the health benefits and all that through the company, why not?
Well, so these are low skill jobs you want. You want to be able to come out of high school just making 75, 80,000. Right? Is that what you're saying? Like these are low skills. These don't require
low skilled, yeah.
Okay.
Like putting shoelaces in a shoe or something. I don't know.
Right. Sure. Okay. Little screws in iPhones.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, guys like you and me, we do the real thinking, but then we let the peasants, the plebs, they do the manufacturing.
But man, there would be so much if these existed. I mean, there would be so much competition for these jobs. I don't. It just doesn't it doesn't feel like this would ever exist because then nobody would be a cashier. Nobody would work as if we had just had these factory jobs. It just
see, now you're arguing on my side. You're basically saying this is so attractive, it will take away jobs from other jobs. The manufacturing jobs are so attractive.
Right.
We're going to run out of cashiers.
You just got, low. This doesn't, this is like magical. This is a fairy tale land. It just seems like you're being sort of okay, you're sort of being like a theist in that you have this.
See, you're trying it. You're trying to do it. You're trying to upset me.
I want you just to feel icky. I want you to feel uncomfortable like you do with.
Not going to happen. I like you too much.
Oh, thank you. What I'm trying to say is you've taken the thing that Trump says, well, tariffs are good, and let's post talk or whatever the word is. Let's rationalize it and it's like, oh well, maybe we'll fix youth unemployment, or maybe we'll do something with we'll bring jobs back and all this stuff. But it's like, if we cared about youth unemployment, maybe we start with that, and maybe there are better ways of fixing that than tariffs.
Okay, right? I'm listening. Name a better way.
I don't know the answer to that.
See, this is the problem with you flag-waving phony lefties.
Well, here.
You just complain and whine and complain, and then when I ask for an alternative solution, I don't know.
Education, parenting, how's that?
Oh yeah, I can't disagree with you. Good parenting.
You told me last time you've raised. I remember the story about your kid and what you told him about what the degree they wanted and who pays for what if they go for what degree, et cetera, et cetera. So that was good parenting, and I think we can encourage that instead of upending global trade and world economies. And I think you're doing a lot here just to fix maybe youth unemployment. What do you think? Do you think you're starting from the tariffs are good and trying to explain it, or do you think
No. I'm a true intellect. I'm a true skeptic. I start with tariffs are neutral. They're neither good nor bad. It's how they're implemented and for what purpose and how they're used. Isn't that the wise way to go?
Yeah, I guess
Yeah,
so.
thank you.
Why hasn't any other Republican or president taken this route of the tariffs, or other in modern history? I guess since like the 70s or something.
I think they have, just not to this degree.
Well, okay. Oh, they have. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe it's the degree that's different then.
Yeah, but again, you might have come late, but here's my Trump apologist hat on. What Trump, I think, is doing is brilliant because he's setting expectations for these huge tariffs, like 34%, 54%, whatever. And then he says, 90-day pause, I'll drop it down to 10, which is still 10 more than 0. So, and everybody goes, whew, stock market rallies 10%. It's like, it's psychological anchoring is what he's using to manipulate people. And it's a thing of beauty.
Right, but he's causing this sort of unstable environment that...
Yes, he wants instability because when people are emotionally unstable, they're easier to manipulate.
Tell that to the foreign businesses that are wanting to open up plants in the United States. Is this a
That's the whole goal, to do that.
Right. I don't want to... Why, if I'm a German auto...
So you scare them to death to make them think they have no choice.
No, that's the thing is they can just sit back and just watch. They're not going to do anything. The tariffs are going to be...
Oh, really?
Why would I, as like a German CEO, invest?
We should make a bet. You want to make a bet?
A bet.
I'm not 100% sure on this bet. Like, it's a very risky bet. I'm going to propose to you, but I feel like I should bet you that China will come to the bargaining table within 30 days, and Trump will renegotiate a trade deal that's more beneficial for the United States than it is for China, and China's going to take it up the butt because they have no choice.
I agree with that.
Oh, so you wouldn't take the bet?
No, I would not say that because I think that happened the last time Trump was in office. He did something like this. China negotiated with Xi or was it Xi? This happened last time. I'm almost positive.
Yeah, it was within a month.
Yeah. So like, yeah, this is probably going to happen. Like, this is more ruinous for China than it is for the United States, the tariffs. So But I mean, if you're talking about trying to get jobs here and having companies invest in America, why would I, as a foreign investor, start the process of building a plant here when it's going to take years and millions of dollars, when maybe the tariffs are going to be off?
Why does anybody build a plant that takes years and millions of dollars? Because
it'll be worth it for them in the longer term.
Ding, 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 ding. You just answered your own question.
But the issue is Trump will be gone in 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean his policies will necessarily be gone.
That's the thing. It's like, who is this? Do I want to put in the millions of dollars to like kind of do this? Oh, is he going to begin? Is the next president gonna just undo everything and then I've wasted all this money in America?
If there's progress being seen by the American public, and let's say JD Vance is the next president, odds are he's going to just keep those policies going. So now we're looking at 8 years.
Sure.
And even if the Democrats see progress and seeing that the American people like what's happening, like let's say the employment numbers of American jobs available and Americans taking these jobs go up over the next 3 years. Democrats are not stupid. They're going to see that. And they're going, hey, this is a policy that we'll tinker with it to make it ours. But the fundamental root of it, we're going to keep.
So it's a waiting game. So like, I don't think anybody's making the decision now, even though we have Apple and whatever big companies saying, yeah, we're investing $500 billion. I'll wait till they put their money where their mouth is. I don't think they would actually. It seems way too unstable. Trump has created just a whole mess that I don't think anybody wants to take part in. But all right, PineCreek. It was good talk.
Yep. Thanks for calling in.
Bye.
Okay, let's see. I'm going to play a few clips of this before I end the show. Let's see if I can find it. This is Chuck Schumer. What year is this? 1996. Old-time Democrat.
Angry with us on. We say we're doing something, and we do nothing. Because every time someone makes... I thank the gentleman, salute him for his work on this, rise in support of the amendment. First of all, Social Security card is used from one end of America to the other as an identification card right now. Who are we kidding? If you want to pass a law and says it shouldn't be, I would ask the chairman and the distinguished minority member of the Social Security meeting.
Oh, yeah. So here's a Democrat advocating for ID in order to vote.
The committee to pass that law, but let's admit the truth. Everywhere people go, they're asked for a Social Security card. In fact, one way to prove you're a bona fide person who can have a job is to ask for a driver's license and a Social Security card. This is an anti-fraud amendment. Over where we go, people say, well, why can't you stop illegal immigrants or others from coming here? And the number one answer we give our constituents is when they come here, they can get jobs, get benefits against the law because of fraud. And here, the gentleman from Florida has put together the most effective anti-fraud measure we can find without it changing the actions of the government one bit. And we find all this opposition. Ladies and gentlemen of this chamber, what I worry about is that this bill, which started out with good intentions, whether you agree with it or disagree with it, is going to end up being the same kind of thing that the public gets angry with us on. We say we're doing something, and we do nothing. Because every time someone makes a rational and small proposal to get something done, people say, well, what about this hypothetical, that hypothetical, etc. I urge support of this amendment. If you believe you want to stop fraud in immigration, you have no choice but to support this amendment.
Yeah, so here's a Democrat in 1996 admitting that the number one reason illegal aliens are sneaking across the border is so they can easily defraud social programs. Ooh, racist.
About a third of all of the spending that's done in Medicare, Medicaid, I would imagine a lot of it's in the private sector as well, doesn't go to really good health care, goes to other things.
Ooh.
And the real nub of this is how do we wring that waste out, that fraud, abuse, duplication, without interfering with the good care that we want every person on Medicare, Medicaid, and private insurance to get. The average citizen knows this happens. How many times when you look at your medical bill, you've undergone a minor procedure, and you see Dr. Smith, $4,000, and you sort of vaguely remember he just waved and poked his head in the door? If we're going to eliminate the waste, fraud, and abuse in Medicare, it does mean we're going to cut some of that out.
Sounds like
And when I hear my friend Dave Camp say, you cannot cut money out of Medicare, well, we don't want to cut the good stuff that you point out, or add the prevention. But if we're going to, if what Senator Coburn says, that 1/3 of Medicare doesn't go to patient care, you can't just get up there and say, we don't want to cut anything out of Medicare. We want to cut the bad stuff and keep the good stuff. And I think that's where we can find common ground on.
He sounds exactly like what the Republicans are talking about today, except this was back in 2010. And so when there was protests this past weekend, thousands, maybe millions of people protesting all across the country with the signs, hands off our Medicare, hands off our Social Security. But here's a Democrat, Chuck Schumer, saying, look, there's probably up to 1/3 of these programs that are the bureaucracy, that are fraud. We can cut those, and we can keep the good parts so your benefits don't drop. I wish people were smarter and understood these things. This is 2010. Yeah, I think that's... Oh, yeah, let's go to Nancy. Oh, she's young here.
We cannot keep our promises on Medicare. We simply must make the cuts in waste, fraud, and abuse in Medicare so that the benefits and the premiums are untouched. We owe it to our seniors. We owe it to our country.
Yeah, and this is basically Trump's position. The actual benefits of Social Security, Medicare will not go down, but there's still a ton of fraud and waste and bureaucracy that we can cut from those programs. But if you lean left or you're a Democrat and you hear we're going to cut Social Security, I don't know, there's something in your brain turns off. You just can't think. You know, immediately go, this is terrible. You throw a tantrum. Be more dead inside.
How far does China have to go? How much more repression? How big a trade deficit and loss of jobs for the American worker? And how much more dangerous proliferation has to exist before members of this House of Representatives will say, I will not endorse the status quo? As I mentioned, it's about jobs, proliferation, and human rights. And there are those who say we shouldn't link human rights and trade and proliferation and trade. I disagree. But if we just want to take up this issue on the basis of economics alone, indeed, China should not receive most favored nation status for several reasons that I'd like to go into now. I'd like to call the attention of our colleagues to this chart on the status quo that the business community is asking each and every one of us to endorse today. Right now we have a...
Oh, look at this. This is so funny. I don't know. You guys probably can't see it. Let me see if I can make this bigger. This is like the chart Trump put up a few days ago. So it's hard to read, but it says average U.S. tariff on Chinese goods 2%. This is 1995. Average Chinese tariff on U.S. goods 35%. Interesting. Wouldn't it be funny if Trump admits, oh, by the way, that chart I put up there, everybody laughed at me about the other day. So, oh, those tariffs are not right. I got it from Nancy Pelosi. That'd be hilarious if he admitted that. Michael, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Do you have a question for me?
Oh, you were saying.
By the way, your audio is very terrible. Can you make sure it's clear? Like, don't cover the speaker.
Yeah, let me fix that. Is that better?
Oh, way better.
Is that better, PineCreek?
Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, what's your question?
Oh, I lost you.
You can't hear me? I'm here. Can you, let's see here. Let me see if I can type to him. Just ask him to ask your question. There. See if he gets that. You'll call back. Social Security is the worst and most immoral legislation ever passed in this country. Well, if everybody was wise with their money and saved their money and knew how to had basic financial and economic literacy, yeah, you wouldn't need Social Security. You need to be making $250K for a family of four to live just a middle-class life today, minimum, says pandemic entitlements. That's false if you live in North Dakota. Yeah, Doug, but who wants to live in North Dakota? I could find you. In fact, the other day I love North Dakota because I'm from Manitoba originally. Very cold in winter, but there was a 7-acre acreage with a 3,000 plus square foot house, beautiful home, well maintained, a large Quonset and a large shop, a huge garden where you can make your own food. for a $500,000. That just shows you how cheap you can live in some parts of the United States. That same place in California would be $5 million. Doug, you should watch the Doug Burgum segment on the Ruthless podcast. What's it about? Give me a headline. Ruthless Project. Making 80K in the South is like 200K in California. Some of you need to travel more. Yeah, exactly right, Roger. You can drive federal revenue with tariffs, but retooling takes years. Supply chains fully integrated across borders don't just disappear. Supply chains fully integrated across borders just don't disappear. Although we seem to do it in World War II. Maybe we need a fear of death to motivate us. In World War II, Ford Motor Company retooled their automobile plants to make bombers. I think they did it in months, not years. Take that, pandemic. Andrew Wilson destroyed Destiny in a debate. He was almost crying. Oh, what's the title of that? Was that something recent? I thought Destiny said he would never talk to him again. Andrew Wilson, Destiny. Let's see if anything happened this week. Destiny goes wild and threatens to rage quit. Andrew Wilson unleashed an alpha mode. That was 4 days ago. Is that what you're talking about? It's about tariffs and energy and AI.
Necessarily mean that a Catholic would prescribe that it changes the law in the country that they're in, right? In a way, you could read this as a render unto Caesar. What? Hold on. No. It doesn't seem to be the argument because you're conflating the law and the morality.
It doesn't seem to be because it's not.
When you ask somebody, do you consider it a sin when somebody does something else? Generally, what is or isn't a sin is something that you're concerned with, and you're concerned with other people in your faith. Personally, I've never been in the business of, or seen other Christians at least, maybe for Muslims it's different, maybe for Jews it's different, maybe for other people it's different, is trying to evaluate. I never in my life, I took 4 years of fucking Catholic high school, 8 years of Catholic grade school. Never once did we have a class.
So Roger, wasn't this show? Yeah, the show where he debated 20 people. Oh, that one. Yeah, that's from a while back. That was on Jubilee. Yeah, I can't play Jubilee. They got to stick up their butt with. As soon as you play it, they'll shut down this live stream. Pandemic says you are a Trump apologist. Yes, proudly so. Making up narratives. Yeah, I'm just making stuff up. Listen to yourself. How you use your language to suggest ideas that are not real. Blah, blah, blah. Was the loss of $11 trillion part of it? Oh, pandemic, I beg of you to call in. Please, pandemic, call in. We can have a very nice civil conversation. All you have to do is click the link. And what's this $11 trillion loss you're talking about? Call in and let me know. Someone lost $11 trillion? They had it in their trunk and they lost the car or something? What's this 11 trillion loss? Doug, you seem to be streaming less. Busy lately? No, not necessarily busy, more busy. Just There's less need to stream. It's like when you're winning. But I'm begging pandemic entitlements to call in. Maybe I need to butter pandemic up. So pandemic, I'm sorry that you're on social assistance. I really am. I wish you all the best. I know you're on disability, and I know you're scared, but it's going to be okay. How's that pandemic? I'm buttering you up. I'm letting you know everything's fine. Is that too harsh? Too much emotional manipulation? I had a conversation today about it really bothers some people when they hear Trump say something that's not true. I hear politicians say things that are not true often. Does it bother me? Not really. I'm not sure why it bothers some people more than other people. I guess they feel that they mislead the public, I guess. But I've always been a big believer with Trump. He exaggerates, hyperbole. I do sometimes use the word lie, but lie assumes intent. So let me bring up something here. So this is a conversation I had on Discord. Someone asked me, I'm curious what your thoughts are about Trump when he keeps saying that countries pay the tariffs. For example, the National Republican Congressional Committee dinner, the one where he was wearing a tuxedo, he said, additional tariffs on Chinese goods are in place effective midnight tonight at 104%. China will now pay a big number to our Treasury. This is all taxes, and don't let them keep telling you that this is a tax on our people. During my first term, I took in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs and taxes from China. And then the question he asked me, is he lying or something else? So I responded in good faith. And I said, let me put my Trump apologist hat on, because that's where most people on the left always assume where I'm coming from. So you just give them what they want. If pressed, I think Trump would admit that if it's a small tariff, it is first paid by the importer, then passed on to the consumer. And that it is indeed, if it's passed on to the consumer, a consumption tax on the American people. So in other words, if Trump were forced to answer that question, I think Trump would admit this. Could I be wrong about that? Yeah. But I think he would admit this. But he doesn't want to admit this. And then I say that I support consumption taxes over income taxes. So even if it is a consumption tax, the tariffs, I'm okay with that. And then I go on. I say, but what Trump is saying is that if the tariff is high enough, because he mentioned the 104% on China, if the tariff is high enough to price out the good from the Chinese market, then the tariff is only paid by the importer until they cease operations, because the good is not going to be sold in the country because the tariff is just too high. It's priced out of the market. Or they move operations, the Chinese will move operations into the US to avoid the tariff. Unlikely. But now, well, I shouldn't say unlikely, it could happen. But now they are paying regular taxes within the country if they do so. They hire employees, the employees pay taxes, they pay income taxes. To sum up, in the long run, the tariff is indeed paid by the exporting country by shifting operations into the US doing business within the country instead of through exports and imports. But in the short run, the smaller tariffs that keep the good competitive will most likely be passed on to the consumer. Either way, whether small tariffs or big tariffs, I personally support it, as long as income taxes are lowered, which is the plan. And when I say income taxes lowered, like right now they're scheduled to increase. Did they already pass the bill to extend Trump's tax cuts from the first term? Now, some have pressed me, why can't Trump just say what he means? Or maybe Trump doesn't know what I just said, that he's ignorant. Or maybe he is lying. He knows the truth, but he says something that's a lie. In all three of those scenarios, in all three of those cases, it doesn't bother me because I'm expecting it to work. In other words, consumption tax with lower income tax is good to me. And if it happens, that's good. And shifting operations in the US is also good. Now, if it doesn't work, tariffs can be removed as quickly as they're put on. And we see all that today just by announcing a 90-day freeze. The markets went sky high, 10% up. That's one of the beauties of tariffs, is how fast you can implement it. You can do it within hours. But I think my advice to a lot of people who lean right, when you're talking to people who lean left, they need to hear you say, yeah, Trump lied here. Emotionally, they need to hear that. Bill Shirk says, PineCreek, I had an argument about Trump with a liberal at work, and he said Trump will bring down the price of eggs on day one. Then I laughed in his face. Well, Trump did say that he would bring down the price of eggs on day one, and that he would cut electricity in half on day one. I listened to Trump when he said those things, and I laughed. I said to myself, no, he's not. And for someone who leans left, they go, well, why did you vote for him then? And if they answer that way, I just feel like saying, oh, you stupid person, think. There's more issues out there. When a politician runs for office, they have many platforms, many issues, many policy proposals. And you choose the ones that are the most important to you and find the person who meets those policies closest to you. And that's who you vote for, usually. So I can, on one hand, say Trump is totally wrong about X, Y, and Z. I can even say Trump lied about X, Y, and Z. I can say that Trump is full of crap here and here and here, and still vote for him and still be overall happy with his performance. I still don't understand, and maybe someone could call in, what is the real, like, if you were to unpeel all the layers of the onion, what actually is the real issue, the real cause of the hatred towards Trump? Is it grab him by the pussy? Is it Trump's policies on queer people? I wish more people who lean left would watch the show so they could answer that question. Like, what is the fundamental issue you have with Trump? Is it because he's for, I don't know, you feel he's a threat to your social safety net? Is that the fundamental reason you hate him? Do you hate him because he's okay with telling people sometimes that he just doesn't care about them? Because my personality type is, I'm totally fine with the President of the United States saying, I don't care about you. Like, within reason, of course. Like, he should care about protecting the country from threats, foreign or domestic, that sort of thing. But it's not the President of the United States' job to make you feel good on a daily basis. Oh, you again. Oh, so you want to answer my question?
So,
what's your fundamental problem with Trump?
So, like, the amount he talks about Biden. Do you agree or disagree? Jesus, every time it's just everything is about like this. Doesn't that just seem right? Like, come on, what are we doing here?
Okay, but did you hear my question? My question was, okay, first of all, do you hate Trump? Do you dislike Trump?
Yes, I dislike him. Yes.
Okay. Now, I'm a smart guy. I'm sure there's many reasons why you dislike Trump. But what I'm after is the core, the most fundamental, where if we start removing all those reasons, there's one in your mind that would be so hard to remove because it's like so it impacts the other reasons, and it's like, what is it?
It's my net worth going down.
What?
Yeah, money, basically. Losing money in the stock market.
Oh my goodness. You did
Okay.
not just say that.
So at the end of the day, okay, we have to be honest. Like at the core, that's what it is, first and foremost. Like, do I really care if Russia takes some of the Donbass from Ukraine?
Okay, hang on. No, we gotta focus in on this, because if
Right.
you're not lying to me, right? This is the real reason.
This is a legitimate. I think this is.
You were not in the stock market in 2017.
Not super heavily. I mean, I had a 401k, but I wasn't really looking at it. And
Did your 401k go up from 2017 to December 31st, 2019?
19. It did go up, yes.
Okay. And when it went down during the COVID, you blame Trump for that?
No. Actually, do I blame
For the stock market going down?
Well, I mean, yes, I do blame Trump, but it did get us through COVID. I blame more COVID.
Okay, good. So
in Russia,
your core reason you just told me that you dislike Trump heavily is because of money, and he's lost you money, but he didn't lose you money the first term, correct?
Correct.
So you think so he's lost you money this term?
Correct.
So okay, let me ask you.
Yeah.
How much money have you lost?
It's not like a ton, but like in the tens of thousands.
Okay, so you lost tens of thousands of dollars, which means you actually sold?
No.
So you haven't actually lost it then?
Correct, but...
So your core fundamental reason that for disliking Trump is because he's lost you money, but you actually haven't lost money?
For making my net worth go down.
Oh, and that makes you feel sad?
Yes, because I genuinely believe his economic policies are bad, and they're bad for the future, which means I think I'm going to have a lower net worth for the rest.
Okay.
Maybe this term.
I have a crystal ball, okay?
Yeah.
12 months from now, the S&P 500 will make all-time highs. Do you now like Trump?
More, yes.
More.
I'm not fully like I'm in love. No, there's other reasons, but when you talk,
But this is the fundamental one, the stock market.
I'm honestly answering your question about like the actual fundamental thing is like, yes, seeing a lot of my money kind of go, even though it's not realized, but seeing it go down.
But will you give, I know there's 100 other reasons why you don't like Trump, but will you give Trump a pass on those other reasons, knowing that he's generating huge, vast amounts of wealth for you because the stock market makes new highs? You're willing to stick with Trump?
If like I'm closer to it. Like I can't say for sure. But it moves me a lot to like, yes, money moves me. And it moves a lot of people. So
how often do you invest in the stock market?
I do like lump sum once a month. Like it's not really like dollar cost averaging every like week, but like
maybe once or twice a month.
Yeah, once or twice a month I'll put in like a lump sum of money. Like,
did you do that last week?
Did you do a tiny bit because I was scared. I did like a tiny bit of money.
You were scared.
I was, yeah.
Yeah, that's the time to buy when you're scared. And when you're happy is the time to sell. So you use I'm going to give you some really wise advice here. Well, hang on. You shouldn't sell, but when I say sell, I mean you don't buy stocks, you shift it into other areas. So when you're feeling happy about your stocks, that's when you should stop buying them. And you should buy bonds or even a small allocation into gold or even Bitcoin or even, I don't know, an old classic car, whatever. You invested it in another appreciating asset. When you're happy with that asset, you stop buying it. And then when you get scared and nervous and frightened, that's when you stop buying the bonds and you start buying the stocks. So use your emotions and just do the opposite of what your emotions tell you, and you'll be fine in the stock market.
I understand that, right? Be fearful when others are greedy. Be greedy when others are fearful. Whatever Warren Buffett said. Yeah, I understand the concept. But with Trump, he honestly doesn't seem rational in a way, even though right you think he is. But he just I feel like we don't have reason right now in the presidency, and I don't trust in the United States the stability of it for his next term, for this term at least. So that's why I was it's easy to say like, yeah, just hold. I don't know. I understand what you're saying, and I believe it to be true. It's just that we have a different president now, and with completely different.
Do you own any bonds?
No.
I'm going to stick on the money part because I know that's important to you, and it is to me too. So we got that in common.
Awesome.
The next time you invest, how much do you typically invest at a time? $5,000, $1,000?
$2
grand. Okay. Next time you have $2,000 lying around and you want to invest, if the stock market is over 5,400, the S&P 500, don't buy stocks, don't buy index funds, don't go buy a bond, and you'll get as long as your bond can give you 4% or more. If you go to your local bank or credit union, I bet you can get a CD for 4%. Start allocating differently. And then if the stock market starts going down, then spend that below 5,400, then buy stocks. Why do I say 5,400? Because of my little rule of thumb thing. It takes 2 to 3 years at the most for the stock market to make new highs after a correction.
And
you'll actually feel better owning some bonds and you don't sell the bonds. You hold them to maturity. So if you buy a 2-year bond, you hold it to maturity, you collect the interest. And then let's say you do a 2-year bond or a CD for 1 year. When it expires after 1 year, don't reinvest in the bond unless my rule of thumb tells you to buy stocks. If it says stay in bonds, then just reinvest into that CD automatically.
Okay.
And then when you see huge fluctuations in the stock market, you're less likely to have this angst and sadness inside because, I got like 30% of my net wealth in bonds and I'm still making 4%. I'm okay.
Right.
In fact, yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Okay. I understand. Yeah, and maybe I should look at the CD. I don't know. CDs are a type of bond. Is that like, are those the same?
Yeah, basically it's a CD. Right now, CDs are priced very much similar to a normal, a good savings account. I'm getting 3.8% on my savings account, and I can pull it anytime I want. But you can buy short-term CDs for 6 months or 12 months that get you a scotch higher, like maybe 4.25%.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So if you don't really need the money, I would still, eke out that extra and buy a CD.
I'll look into that. I appreciate that. I just at my core though, it just doesn't. His policies don't make me.
Wait a minute, you have no kids.
Correct.
And you have a good job, right?
Correct.
You should be saving more than $2,000 a month. What are you spending your money on, D?
Yeah. Anyways,
I'm going to give you some good financial help here. There's something in your life sucking up money. What's her name?
Dating is expensive. Dating was really.
Is that it? You're dating, and
I mean, yeah, women are part of it. Yeah.
Okay. This live stream has turned into a whole new ball game now. Why are you spending money on women that you're not married to?
Well, dates
for sex.
Ultimately, right.
Why don't you find a good woman and then marry her, and then you get the sex for free? Well, for free, it's, you know what I mean. But
I get what you mean. I get what you mean.
yeah.
But okay, all right. Well, back to your core fundamental thing about.
Oh, see, you're not worried about the stock market. You're worried about your love life. That's the real issue. You feel Trump is cock blocking you because the stock market's going down. You have less money for women.
I mean, when you put it like that, I guess a little bit. Yeah, I mean, a little bit. That's part of it for sure. And I travel a lot too, so I like to travel a lot. So it's hurting both aspects. But you can understand that if Trump's policy is personally making your love life, affecting your love life and your travel, then you probably wouldn't like him.
When you go on a date, I'm an old guy, so I don't even remember dating. But when you go on a date, you always pay for the food?
Yes.
What would happen if you said to the gal you're dating, are you in a serious relationship right now?
No.
Okay. So let's say you go on a date, it was the first date or second date, and you said, hey, can you pick up your half of the check? What would happen? Would they date you again?
I don't know. And I would feel icky about it. And
do you have some old Catholic background that says that the man has to do these things, or what?
No, I don't. I just feel like I should be. I just, as a guy,
you're a chauvinist.
I feel like, yeah, I usually go for the dates. Like, I don't like I feel it's weird. I don't know. I feel like the women don't make as much as me, and for the most part, and I feel icky about it. That's all I can say is like it doesn't feel right to me for the girl to take.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, you're 30 years old. There hasn't been one woman that you thought you could spend the rest of your life with? Do you even want to get married?
I do.
Okay.
But no, unfortunately, there hasn't been that one girl.
Do you go to a church?
No, I'm not religious. I'm an atheist.
Yeah, well, so am I, but that doesn't mean you can't go to church. You need to go to church and find a good woman.
Well, I used to be a Muslim, so maybe I go to a mosque to find.
Okay, go to a mosque then. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. No, but then I'll find a Muslim woman. I don't want that.
What's bad about Muslim women? Their fathers. That's what's bad. I gotcha.
Oh wow,
I'm good, right?
Yeah. That is very true, right? Everything's got to go through the father first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, depends on the Muslim, of course, but traditional, real Muslims, I guess, are very much like Orthodox Jews. Women are property of the fathers until they're married. Even some Christians believe that.
Interesting. I didn't know that about the Jews.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I hope you can see my side of why fundamentally I don't like Trump.
Well, yeah, but I know the real reason. This is a women issue. How much money do you spend on women a month? Like eating out. I'm not, we're making this family friendly. Movies and dates and food.
Sure. Maybe $1,000 a month.
Can you imagine if you spent that $1,000 on investing in either bonds or stocks or gold or whatever? In 12 months, you got 12,000 invested, and that's growing.
I get it. I
unless the woman can give you a better return.
Emotionally.
Yeah, but emotionally. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. 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 Mm-hmm. I understand, and that could be. I think that's what I'm paying. I think right now I feel like my investment. I'm getting a better return on my investment with women instead of maybe in the market.
Oh, you know what? I suggested you should go to a mosque, but really look. You want a good woman? Find a woman, a Republican woman, who was raised in a conservative home with a father and a mother, who knows how to cook, makes delicious food, has been around young kids, knows how to be a good mother. There's a lot more of good Christian women than good Muslim women because just there's so many more Christians. So what we're going to do for you is not only going to save money, you're going to find a good woman to marry, and she's going to, the PineCreek theorem is she's going to lead you to the right side politically. And if you go to the right side politically, you'll smile more, you'll be happier. People who lean left, especially the woke progressives, always sad, always depressed, always angry. Have you noticed that? There's always a stick in their butt. They're horrible people to be around.
You think so?
Oh, yes. They're always, you know why they're always sad? Because they're always feeling and emoting and have empathy for the oppressed and the marginalized. How can I be happy when so many people are being hurt and downtrodden? Like, if you truly believe this, that people are being oppressed in the United States in the year 2025, how can you be happy?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I think, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I completely agree, but I don't really, yeah, I don't have that same empathy thing. It's kind of like when MAGA people are like, yeah, but the Chinese slaves, so you care if the child laborers, you're gonna take advantage of them. Yeah, I mean, that's not my problem. I'm fine with that. I don't need to feel bad for the Chinese slaves. Whatever. But like,
Well, don't tell a woman that. Like, you might not ever get married.
well, the Republican woman might be like, yeah.
Republican women, they might be better for your personality type. Someone gave some tips for you in the live stream chat. When you're shopping, when you're looking for a woman, Muslim joke.
You're right. You got to pay. Yeah. Right.
Look at how a woman treats her parents, and that's a good insight for her behavior. So if she treats her parents well with respect, you have a good woman. And okay, here's another little tip for you. Is attractiveness very important to you?
Yeah.
Okay. Make sure you look at the woman's ankles. That's the first thing you should look for in a woman. Thin ankles.
And what does that tell me?
That will tell you probably have a thin woman. Like a lot of women, as soon as they get married, they put on 30, 40, 50 pounds. That's less likely. And then, of course, you got to look at the mother as well.
So that is something I am scared of. Is the weight that a woman.
The weight gain, yeah.
That is something I thought that was a myth about being like big boned, or is that what you're telling me? Like big ankles.
It's not a myth. It's scientifically proven. Small ankles make great lovers.
Interesting. Okay, I don't know how much I believe that, but maybe it's true. Maybe it is.
Have you ever seen a Japanese woman with thick ankles? No.
I don't think so.
And they're all thin. Not all, but most.
Right. Yeah, I guess I can agree.
You know what's going to happen on your next date? You're going to laugh because she's going to be wearing a dress or a skirt or whatever. And you're going to look down and you're going to notice her ankles. And you're going to think about this conversation and me. And you're going to laugh out loud. And she's going to say, "What are you laughing at?" "Oh, just this wise old sage I once talked to."
Yeah.
How old were you when you left Islam?
20, 21, 22.
Okay. And did your parents disown you?
They don't really know. Like,
and you're here on with me talking publicly?
Yeah.
You're taking a risk.
Yeah, I am. Yeah. They don't really know like the extent of it.
They just think you're backsliding.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it'll happen at one point.
Well, if you marry a Christian Republican woman, then sure they'll be happy, right?
Oh yeah, no. Oh yeah, Yeah. No. Yeah. So yeah, it hasn't. It's gonna happen. I think it's gonna come down to who I choose to marry, and they'll be like, why did you choose this woman? And it's gonna be like, well, because
Where do you?
Hmm?
I asked you this before, but I don't remember the answer. Where do you find the women that you date right now?
Online dating apps.
Oh, does that work? Are they okay?
It
Like, don't you get catfished all the time? Like you look at the picture and then you see them in real life and they're like,
sometimes. I mean, for sure. I mean, people will generally post the best pictures of themselves. So by default, there's a little bit of catfish.
can you show me your picture that you use? I want to see if you catfish women. Just make sure I don't see any names or anything.
Right. That's what I'm. Do I want to? Okay.
Or do you have it on your hard drive? The picture.
Hold on. All right. I mean, maybe I can just
Hey, hang on. I'll tell you what. I'm gonna make sure nobody can see, and then make sure you hold it right. Okay, go ahead. No, only I can see.
All right.
And if I see your name or anything, I won't show it.
Okay.
Promise. Let's see. Okay. I see your first name, but maybe go closer.
Okay.
Yeah. So that you hide the top. Okay. Leave it there and don't move. I'm going to show the audience.
All right.
Yeah, you're catfishing too.
No. All right.
What this is like showing the guns and.
Okay. All right. We're okay. All right. Okay.
No, it's a good picture. It's a good picture.
Would your kids be on a date? Would you encourage your kids to get on dating apps?
That's a good question. I think so, because nowadays it's really hard unless you're religious to find a lot of people. So maybe.
Okay.
But I would really maybe I'd be in charge of it. So I'd be the one swiping left or right.
Okay.
And
really?
And then I would get my buddy at the police department to do background checks.
Yeah, right.
Criminal checks.
Correct. Criminal, social, credit check.
Credit check, yeah. Anything below, 700 you don't want to date, right?
No, yeah, you don't want to do that.
No.
Absolutely not.
I think
so.
I think there should almost be like, I don't know what these dating apps have, but do they have questionnaires like how much you spend monthly on Amazon?
No,
they should have that if they don't.
Yeah, they should. No, it's mostly they have prompts. It's like my best travel story, and you can put in your best travel story, or my typical Sunday is, and they put your typical Sunday. That stuff. Yeah. No.
Do they have stuff like religion? Are you Muslim, Christian?
Put that.
What did you put?
Nothing. I have nothing there.
Okay.
You can choose to put, like, you can choose to leave it blank almost if you want to. You could choose to leave that part blank, and so it's not there.
You still get hits, because if I were a religious woman and I saw a man leave it blank, I'm automatically going to assume he's an atheist or agnostic, and I would say, but I really want a Christian, I really want a Muslim, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I wouldn't want those type of women anyway. So
you wouldn't?
Like a religious girl? No, I don't think so.
I actually think an atheist man and a religious woman raise the best kids.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, why do you think that? What?
Well, because I'm biased, and that's happened in my own family. But there is some logic to it. For some kids, they do need that fear, like God could hurt you. But then you got the atheist father who says that's just make believe. But then you got the religious mother saying, but it might be true. And so it just causes the child to hedge their bets a little bit. Now, of course, you don't want to teach them things like, oh, if you don't do this, this, and this, you're going to end up in torment for the rest of your life if you die. You don't want to do that sort of thing. But a little bit of fear, I think, is okay. Oh, the woke left. They're going to hear what I just said. And they're going to freak out.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, yeah. So you're basically making them kind of on their toes, keeping them on their toes.
Plus, here's reason number 2. Women tend to be the ones who put together social events. Men are usually not interested in that unless it's fishing or poker night or whatever. And so, and that it happens more if you're religious. So if you have a church community or a mosque community or whatever, and you marry, you can say to everybody, make it clear, hey, I'm an atheist, but at least you can tap into that community when need be, and they'll even treat you better. So atheist men are treated way better in a Christian church than Christian men because they want to save you.
Oh.
Yeah. They will treat you way better than their fellow brothers in Christ. I've experienced this for like 20 years or 12, 15 years. It's great being an atheist in a Christian church. They love you like you've never been loved before.
Not for you.
Well, I still like it. I kind of like being loved upon. Yeah,
sure, but like it's sort of like, hey, we don't really like you. We just like you
for my body. Yeah.
For your, I guess, whatever it is. I guess
my soul.
I don't know. Your soul. Yeah, that's what it is. It's like we just want to save you. Yeah, kind of thing.
Oh man, I just looked at the time. I got to run. But anyhow, nice talking to you. I'm actually glad you did hop back on in. That was it's way more fun to talk about your love life than about Trump.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. See ya.
Yeah. See ya. But
isn't that more fun talking about his love life? All right, let's focus in on the chat for a little bit. This is becoming like a dating live stream here in the last 20 minutes. Bill Shirk says, I couldn't agree with you more. My 2 boys are great because of diversity. Are you talking about diversity of religion, non-religion, or did you marry a black woman too? I love women with brightly colored hair. The hair gives me warning not to engage. Yeah. Stay away from blue-haired women. Thank you, what? Mental Sawdust says, when it comes to looking for a woman, anything less than a full medical exam with blood panel and detailed credit report is just reckless behavior. Yeah, you might as well invest in individual stocks. You might as well day trade if that's the type of behavior you're going to be engaged in. Oh, yeah, good tip, what? How to find women. Ballroom, rock and roll, street Latin. Heaps of women to men ratio, and you get to hold them before you buy. That's funny. If you came late, we looked at, listened to a billionaire, made some good points about tariffs and Trump. No income tax for people making $150,000 a year or less. Can you imagine if that happens in the United States of America within the next 3.5 years? Wow. That would be huge. Poof. My apologies to Donald J. Trump. He was scheduled to come on the program and talk about tariffs, but we ran out of time.